in my life. Today is literally the greatest day of my life.
Really?
Yes. We got a game already, Grant.
Oh, we're already in.
I had 1 cup of coffee. I'm working on my water now. It's going to be a great day of StarCraft. I got a hot date later tonight. What could possibly be better?
I can think of a few things, and one of them is the player in the bottom left-hand corner of Eternal Empire, the Protoss player, representing Team Rotti. He is the Croatian. It's Goblin.
Are we going to see Void Race today, Grant?
Yep.
And Goblin's opponent in that top right-hand side in the blue from France and E-Punks Gaming, we have got the oddly, vaguely Spanish-named Garitos.
Oh, yes.
I'm so tempted. I know he's a French player, Grant, but every time I read his name, I am tempted to go like, Garitos! Ay, ay!
Yeah. That's what I want to do too.
It sounds like such a Mexican or Spanish name. And again, I'm pretty good at faking a French accent, but I cannot think of a way to say his name in a French accent. So I always just flip my R and go Garitos, and then hope that kind of works. I don't know what else to do.
No. Now, team, I know usually we like to have a little bit of an introduction to the day as we get started, but it turns out that the admin literally started the game the second it turned 1600 GM, 1800 CEST, so we didn't really get any time, but this is game 1 of 5 best of 3s that will happen on this series. We are only covering EU today over on ESL_SC2B, and of course we are starting with Garitos and Goblin. Both of these players very much looking for a win, needing a win, being down 0-1 so far in their group, and I'd say this could be a pretty even one, but I'm expecting shenanigans, Creighton.
You know, I expect shenanigans as well. Group B here is a very challenging one. As you said, both players really needing a win. So even though they've opened up fairly standard here, Gateway Cyber on the low ground, early Evo Chamber down for Garitos, sure, but he did have Hatch Gas Pool, I believe, opener. Yeah. But yeah, I think we'll see some shenanigans here because both these players right now 0-1 in their group.
Yeah, and it looks like Garitos is going to be a little bit aggressive and a bit cheeky off the mark here. Mm-hmm. I mean, the one thing that we can say right now is that if you've watched Goblin's stream in the last, I don't know, week or so, he's been streaming every day. It's been super entertaining, and I recommend it. He is going to make one unit, and he's going to make a lot of them, and that is Void Rays. He loves them. He's currently doing a Void Ray to 7k challenge. He usually opens with Oracle. But he's not going to do that as I say it and go straight into the man of the hour, the Void Ray.
Yeah, this is something we're talking about a lot here, this Void Ray change. And look, guys, I know a lot of people, salty people in the chat and on the forums are like, hey, a week ago, the Void Rays were reduced in cost. Their upgrades were made more potent. Void Rays are broken. Why would Blizzard break the game like this? And if you have the memory of a goldfish, as apparently the people make that argument do, you forget that this happens every single time that any unit is nerfed or buffed, where the entire community says, how could Blizzard do this? This is so broken. And then in 2 or 3 weeks, the meta settles, and we realize that the change generally is for the good. So Goblin, no surprises, opening up that Void Ray, gonna supply block Garitos, and he's going for number 2 here, Grant. Sometimes we'll see a Phoenix or Oracle follow-up, but it's straight Void Ray
he's doing
all the time.
And there is a second Stargate, so we are going to be seeing mass Void Ray. Most likely he'll take a third place in the next minute or so, and he'll look to build up towards carriers in a later stage of the game. For now, he is going to go Overlord hunting. We can see here that Garitos has produced quite a few queen, 4, but continuing to produce 2 at a time. He's adding in spores and lots of drones. I actually expected maybe some aggression with a very early +1 melee upgrade. We can see that Garitos already has on his Lings and Banelings. Expected to see a real all-in. We're not seeing that just yet, but the Baneling nest is on the way, and a few Lings actually being produced right now.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, Grant, what's the follow-up? You've been watching, of course, a lot of Goblins play. What's the appropriate Zerg follow-up to Mass Void Ray? How do you respond? And please don't tell me that the answer is don't let them get there in the first place.
It's still a little bit up in the air. We see a lot of players going Mass, Hydra, maybe some Ravagers, and then trying to overwhelm the Void Ray player before he can get up to the 4 to 6 carrier mark. If you can hit them as they're trying to transition, it's very, very easy to break the Void Ray player. Now what Goblin needs to do is he needs to battery up. He needs to play quite defensive for now, but Garitos is going to go for it. As I said, the early game is the weakest part of the game here for the Void Ray player, and he sees this coming. He's going to be able to cancel all the Banelings. That's a great start, but he needs to be able to do something about this Queens, and right now he really doesn't have much. Battery's on the way.
That one drone tanking a bunch of damage from those Void Rays. Yeah, 6 Queens, though. Going to do a lot of damage. And look at all these Zerglings swarming around. +1 air weapons might actually be under duress here, Grant, as the Cyber Core is making up a significant part of that wall. But there's just not enough from Garitos on the map. I don't think he's produced enough damage. And even though he's standing right next to that third base, standing there menacingly, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I just left the game on accident, Grant. I need you to keep calling things.
Yeah, so lots of Void Rays coming out right now. The count already sitting at 7. There are a good amount of Lings here, but is 7 Void Rays going to be enough to kill the Queens? That's like it. As one falls, second is going to receive a bit of transfuse, another transfuse, multiple, but they are starting to fall down. And as soon as these Queens go down, there's no answer for the Void Rays. Sure, this third is going to be under duress here. It does look like it will fall down eventually. Yes, it will. Goblin knows that, but that's not too bad because behind this, Garitos hasn't expanded. He's gone for a proxy hatch, Creighton. Man, you're missing out.
I wondered
all of the Queens are falling.
He had that drone coming across with the initial army, and I thought it was a mistake, but actually if he's doing a proxy hatch there, it's a very cute move, but a desperation move almost certainly. If Goblin's still in a bunch of Void Rays and no Queens, there's nothing to send. Yeah, there's nothing to stop those Void Rays from going across the map and just destroying everything he's got. Does he have enough Spore Crawlers back home to deal with this?
No. He's trying to throw down a forest of spores, 8 in the production tab right now, but Goblin is holding the front very, very well, adding in a lot of batteries to these Ling counterattacks, and now Goblin moving across with the Void Rays. They have been, beginning their ascent towards just a huge amount of damage for Garitos, and he's got a few spores, sure, as Goblin does have a couple of really low Void Rays, and they're a bit out of position, actually going to lose a couple here just to spores as he's trying to hold the front. Force fields come down, Void Ray comes in, Goblin is just re-walling, doing everything he can as his battery's a little bit low. Very, very well played here from Goblin, but finally the Lings actually do get in. Just as I'm saying that, Garitos loses his third hatchery to the Void Ray, but Goblin needs to recall. Does he have the energy? Yes.
That's one mistake that Goblin often makes, is not dropping enough shield batteries. And I'm a bit concerned that if he's not able to invest in those shield batteries, he's not going to have anything to pump himself back up. Re-walling as a Protoss player always feels bad because you're straight up wasting money. It's not like an investment that may pay off later. It's just a waste of money to try and stop those Lings and Banes from getting in.
Yeah, Goblin has managed to stabilize in the front, and he still has his Void Rays at the other side of the map. He lost 18 probes, so he is actually down workers. Not too many, as he's killed a lot, and now he's working away on the natural hatchery. And oh my god, Void Rays, when they hit that charge, do so much damage. The natural falls. 3 Queens going to try and take the fight against these Void Rays. Goodbye. Good night, Irene, as the Queens do fall. Goblin up 30 supply. And it's looking like Garitos is going for one final bust. 9 Banelings trying to be made just outside of the natural base here, Creighton. The Goblin has Void Rays in position. He has an Oracle. He has Force Fields. He has everything he needs. The Void Rays taking down the Banelings before they can even get that close. The wall stands strong. The Force Field just to complete the defense here. And it looks like Game 1 is going to the Croatian.
Very nice plays by Goblin there. Unsurprising.
First carry out.
Just as the game's about to end, he's like, no, I'm even transitioning behind this just to show you how good I am.
Yeah, Garitos is trying to stay in the game. He's taking a hidden hatchery in the bottom right-hand side here of the map. Creighton, this must be so weird for you to not be able to see it because it's a weird game. He's now making huge amounts of spores. We're looking at how many here in the main. 8 spores in the main, and trying to macro out of this, but behind this Goblin is producing carriers. He's still producing Void Rays. He is up 8 workers, and I think unfortunately for Garitos it is the beginning of the end as the Baneling Nest now goes down 2. There's just no Baneling Nest.
With no Baneling Nest, there's just no way to really pressure the front of a Protoss player when they've walled off. Even with shield batteries, it's very difficult with no Banelings to push on through. So I'm really disappointed with Garitos' play here. Or with Garitos' play here. Just not preparing. GG. Well played.
Test, Creighton. Am I roboty?
No, you sound great, Grant. You sound absolutely... Oh, I spoke too soon, Grant.
Oh.
I spoke too soon. As soon as you were celebrating, you did become a bit robot-y. So I know you're trying to fix that issue earlier. It sounds like you may need some more work on it. But you know what? That's okay. We're such pro casters at this point, Grant, that I know exactly when you're transitioning, and I know to talk over you. So it's perfect.
Yeah, that was a great game by Goblin. He took a little bit of damage, maybe unnecessarily, when the Lings did manage to get into the main. but a clean win, Void Rays. I mean, we predicted it. Thank you all for joining us here today for DreamHack Full. This is EU, already 500 people. Chuck a block into our chat. Maintain social distancing, lads. As we are getting ready to start game 2. Goblin currently with the wrong race. Garitos is ready. Trados check-in. And big shout out to our admin Trados here. Are you in the lobby here, my friend? Yes.
Me? Oh yeah, no, I'm the party leader. You can't be in the lobby without me. I have the ultimate power of lobby entry. Well, Grant, we started today a little bit off, right off the gun. You know, as soon as the match was ready, the stream went live, and we didn't really have a chance to put our viewers firmly in frame of where we are right now in the day, in the tournament, and in DreamHack overall. So I think it might behoove us to just take a moment to remind everybody sort of not only what's at stake, who our players are, what we're going to cover today, and specifically what Group B looks like. So maybe once we get into this next game, we should take a couple seconds as the players do their openers to talk about what the game is going to look like and what all of today's schedule looks like and why it's so important for both of these players to pull out a win today.
Yep, so looking at Group B as we are loading into our game right now, Goblin and Garitos both went 0-2 in their opening matches. Garitos losing to Vanya and Goblin to Hellraiser. So both losing those mirror matchups, but now Goblin is, of course, 1 and 2. Following up with this match today, we will have a double check as we get into this game because my memory is awful. We will be going into Vanya versus Bratok, remaining in this group. Actually, pretty good matchup there. And then Solier and Gerald, Clem and Kugwa. That'll be fascinating. And ending with Casa Laser. Now, Kraden, we're already into our next game. Let me update some scores here.
Beautiful. Well, let me intro our first player then, Grant. We'll talk a little bit about what Group B looks like and what the rest of DreamHack looks like as well. Spawning in the top right-hand side in the red on Everdream LE, winning Game 1 in the most Goblin way possible. It is Goblin from Team Roddy.
And an opponent in the bottom left, representing E-Punks, a predominantly English organisation. So he's got me behind him, despite being a Goblin fan. He is the Zerg player from France. It's Garitos.
So one of the reasons, guys, that we keep stressing how important it is that these players win today is because they're both 0-1 right now. We're in Group B. Oh, Garitos, you absolute maniac. And Goblin, gonna get on top of that, though, with the correct number of probes. That shouldn't finish. So I don't think this is going to be too much of a threat. That'll just mean one Zealot forced out of the gateway for Goblin. He'll send that Zealot backward. And while it is a bit of lost mining time, I don't think it's going to have too much of an impact on this game. Grant, what do you think?
No, it's really not the end of the world. Goblin actually choosing not to make the Zealot. He is going to be able to eventually take this down. It's a bit slower, and as the Evo Chamber comes out, that can sometimes be a real nightmare, as it is slightly more armoured. But you can see the health is slowly ticking away on this Evo Chamber, and even if it finishes, it dies very quickly. So Goblin loses mining time. Of course, Garitos loses one drone, plus the time that it takes to get across the map, and the cancellation fees. Oh my god,
cancellation fees. I love it. What is he doing here, Grant? Now, this to me marks the mark of a desperate man. And while he's doing this, I do just want to take a moment to say why he's so desperate. Both players right now 0-1 in this group. Of course, this is a round-robin group stage, but as you keep reminding us, Grant, players generally need to achieve roughly a 4-win, 3-loss match score here in these groups. So going down to 0-2 means that you have to win 4 of your next 5 games, unless you want to get knocked out of the group stage. And while there's still money on the line, if you don't make it out of the group stage, the money simply not as good, and doesn't give you the opportunity to move into that bracketing stage for more money and more glory.
Money.
Yeah, big money. So both these guys desperately want to put one run on the board so they can at least move themselves in to those middle 4 positions, so they've got a shot at spots 2 and 3 in Group B.
And Goblin's actually ignoring this. He has seen it, right? Of course he has.
Yes.
He is just opting to ignore it. He's getting a Stalker at home. No battery or anything on the low ground. He's actually completely just pretending it's not there. And I don't hate this right now, because the only threat is going to be that of a Queen popping out and then maybe a couple of Lings being made. He's going to battery off now, which is good. Yep. He hasn't reacted too early, and he still managed to find some damage because he knew his opponent would have less. He's committed so much. This is 300 minerals right here that have been committed to this aggressive push. There's a couple of Lings being made, but there's not going to be any drones getting in. Goblin's full walled to ensure nothing can get in. He's very much expecting and anticipating an all-in off the back of this. And it is looking very much like that as we get to the 4-minute mark with no third, and we see this string of lings coming across the map. No baneling nest though.
A couple of really unusual choices here from Garitos, but if you think of it like purely from an economic standpoint, basically, Garitos is giving up 300 minerals on the other side of the map to reduce the travel time for 6 Zerglings. And that's about it. He's going to recall that Adept just to safety. Very cute to save that one unit. But now he's got an Adept out. He's got a Stalker out. And Riley will have to micro a little bit more, and there is a bit of a frustration as far as holding the wall. I really don't like the investment from Garitos. That said, he's got a lot of lings, and this Cyber Core very low. Already we can see Goblin frantically building a backup Cyber Core so we can keep building those ranged units to fight off these Zerglings.
Yeah, but behind this, Goblin has 6 workers more than his opponent. The battery count is getting to the point where with a super battery he can keep these buildings alive almost forever. Sure, he loses his front gateway. That will put him down to just the 1 gateway, which is a bit frustrating because of course he wants sentries, he wants adepts to be able to push this back. The Goblin is at no risk right now of dying, and this is just wasted money. It's giving Garitos vision, but Goblin's going to feel pretty confident pretty soon to probe up. Yep, he throws down his tech choice too, and it is going to be a Robo. So he's going to break out and go for a big Immortal Sentry push with all these sentries he's already curated. And things looking pretty good right now in terms of the defense.
Man, I love this. I love it when a player who's known for playing a little bit more standard, like Garitos, tries to cheese a player like Goblin, who is absolutely one of the kings of Protoss cheese. Yeah. Goblin is sitting in his base, tapping his fingers together and laughing, saying, "I am the Lizard King. You cannot attack me like that."
And Goblin finally gonna just walk up and make sure nothing suspicious is going on. A couple of lings popping here, but Goblin has done a very good job of keeping 1 adept in his mineral line. Has he lost workers? He's lost. Okay, so no, none. He's killed 4 and lost none. That's correct. A phenomenal start for something so aggressive here. And I like the cut of Garitos' jib. You know, I like how he's gone for this. He didn't want this to go long because Goblin in a long game is just going to get mass air. And it's very difficult to beat if you can get to that stage. But it hasn't quite worked out so far. Now, we're still not seeing a baneling nest. We're just seeing roaches being produced. Already 1 on the field, a second coming. Probably not the most efficient army I've ever seen. It's not going to, it's not going to change the world. But Garitos knows he needs to do something. His third has gone down at 6 minutes.
Oof. Yeah, Garitos making some really interesting choices. Very often, Grant, when we see a play, I love how freaking durable Zerg eggs are, by the way. Wear them down for ages, and then as soon as the lings pop out, they just evaporate. It's wild. Anyway, Egon Stetman needs to research those Zerg eggs and make Terran armor out of whatever is in that Zerg cocoon. I think Garitos made some interesting choices here. I mean, besides, just the standard. Did he just kill his own adept on the high ground?
Yes, so he could make a prism.
Wow, that is some big brain play from Goblin. What a freaking champion. Adding on those 3 Warp Prisms. Anyway, to finish my thought, as we see Goblin moving out with double Immortal and the Warp Prism, I imagine we'll see a GG as soon as those hit creep. Garitos made some interesting choices there. Notably, the hatch in the main, very often we'll see that hatchery in the main accompanied by a queen. In fact, that's one of the biggest benefits of having a hatch in one of your opponent's main is that you can make a queen, not only so that you can transfuse your army that's coming across if you've got a roach or 2 that's coming, but also for those creep tumors, which provide long-lasting and permanent vision in the main base, forcing a robo and an observer out of your opponent. So I'm not sure why he was skipping that. Maybe investing too much in the lings on the other side. He's finally going up to Lair Tech, but like I said, I think as soon as we see these Immortals hitting Garitos' third base, he might even just type GG right away. Even though the army supplies look similar, the army value way in favor of Goblin.
Oh, the first force fields as well, incredible. So many lings get trapped. We do have a bit of a flank coming in, and force field's not fully connecting here, forcing Goblin to back off a little bit here. Garitos has a lot of lings, but these force fields continuously prove to be pretty good. We can see now that the Ravagers haven't been able to get any auto attacks off. Sure, they're biling, but they're only biling the force fields. They're not doing any DPS, and now as the ling count falls lower and lower and Goblin's army grows, losing really next to no units, right? He's lost 2 Zealots, 2 Adepts, one of which he killed. He did lose a few sentries. The Goblin now going to start juggling. He's going for the fight. He's going for the jugular. Some very nice bios there, but Goblin's saving as much as he can in the Prism, Creighton.
Yeah, and guys, we watch the army supplies and you think, oh, this is very close. Surely the Zerg can reinforce. They've got defender's advantage, right? Well, no. The Goblin has a Warp Prism. he negates the defender's advantage almost immediately. And of course, he's got all of his tech behind. So I hope that the viewers don't think we're like Goblin fanboys. I mean, Grant is a Goblin fanboy.
I am a Goblin fanboy.
We're doing best as our commentators to maintain fairly even, but it does look more even than it actually is with all the tech advantage in favor of Goblin. Sure, Garitos has +1, but Goblin has those 2 Immortals, has the Warp Prism, working on Disruptors soon, and all it takes is one good Disruptor shot or a few volleys from an Immortal, and this game all but over.
Yeah, Goblin needs to kill this base, realistically. He's at 3 bases to 2 right now, which isn't bad, of course, as a Protoss player, but in order to really, just secure his lead and put himself in a good position, if he can snipe this third, he'll be in a great spot. He is still ahead in Workers, but he hasn't been able to throw down a third Nexus, and we're still looking pretty far off of that point, to the fact where I don't know if Goblin will ever look for it. He's building a Colossus. He's also getting Prism Speed. That Gravitic Drive going to be finishing in 5 seconds. And we're going to see, I believe here, some Disco Ball drops going on. Maybe not. Where are they going? Okay, here we come.
You know, Grant,
there we are.
Yeah, there it is. Very nice call. This is very interesting, though. You know, earlier on, I was much more bullish on Goblin's chances of winning this game. I said maybe as soon as the Immortals hit the 3rd base, Garitos will just GG out. But Garitos has saved his 3rd base, right? It's still at about 3/4 health, which isn't too bad. He's got some Queens out for defense. He's got some Lings on the field, going for a little counter punch, going for a little run by. Actually, as far as the position of these players go, I think it's a lot closer than it was 5 or even 6 minutes ago when Goblin had just held the all in. And now Garitos is pulling out of this death spiral fairly well. That said, Goblin does have some really high-tech units on the field, but still a much closer game than I thought it was going to be, Grant.
Oh, some decent hits there. The Gravitic Drive, Warp Prism, dropping those Purification Novas right on top of 7 drones, and that's a good thing for Goblin right now as he wants to get his 3rd up and get that economic lead. He is still, of course, upgradeless, and we are seeing +2 on the way here for our Zerg, who is also getting pneumatized carapace for some speedy scouting boys. Goblin continuing to look for damage where he can find it. Looks like he got a bit of a hit there. Can't see how many kills these boys got, unfortunately, just yet. But Goblin's army, and we keep saying this, and you keep pointing this out so intelligently, Creighton, is so high-tech. He still has Immortals. He now has 2 Colossi, soon to be a 3rd. His 3rd is now up. He's adding on a Twilight Council. It looks like Goblin's actually going to be happy to kind of macro out of this situation. I don't hate it. I mean, he's now getting into a pretty good spot.
And Grant, this is something that makes Goblin such a dangerous player. A bit of a loss on the all I can think of is Purification Nova. The word is Disruptor. Thank you, Grant. I've only had 1 cup of coffee this morning. I'll have to fix that after this game. Did lose 1 Disruptor, but it did manage to snipe a Queen. I was going to say the big thing for Goblin right now is that one thing that makes him so scary, and the fact that he's pushing for 7k on the ladder, is not a meme or a joke. And it's not just because the Void Rays are so overpowered and Blizzard doesn't know what they're doing, lol. It's because Goblin, behind his cheeky exterior and these cheesy plays that we kind of know and love him for that make the headlines, oh my god. Oh my god, that was beautiful. Behind all of these things that Goblin does so well, from a cheesy point, from a micro point, from a novel strategy point, he is actually a halfway decent macro player.
Goblin getting a good glimpse of that Dropper Lord heading across the field. You know, it being slightly more bulbous does show that it is carrying some Banelings. He should be prepared for that, hopefully. As it heads down to the south, there's always a possibility he missed it. Just forcing drone pools constantly. Oh my gosh. Killing so many units. A single Disruptor remains an absolute nuisance. A thorn in Garitos' backside, and he just can't find anything. Now, +2 is done for Garitos, and he is going. Extended Thermal Lance still about 20 seconds out. +1 halfway done for Goblin. Blink halfway done. And this is a potentially very scary push with the Overlord. Excuse me, dropping as well onto the 3rd. Goblin has to be ready.
Yeah, I think he will be. I hope he pulls out in time. Oh, Goblin, there it is. Very nicely done. As you said, he saw that earlier. And these are +2 Banelings, which means they one-shot workers. Yeah. But very nice pull there from Gobbo. Gets everything out of there. Only 2 workers going down. Not exactly an efficient trade. And now we see Goblin, for one of the first times this game, really pulling ahead in army size. He's been ahead in army supply for the last 3 minutes or so. But now he's finally burgeoning out and getting to a very scary, numerous advantage in his army. Saves the Disruptor, doesn't get a good shot up, but does save the Disruptor. And now the Colossus count up to, 4, working on 5. Yeah. Goodness gracious. Blink +1, finally working on those upgrades again. And Goblin can really push out and actually make a good, concerted push with his army, not just little dribs and drabs of gateway units here and there.
And in the words of Rotterdam, I imagine our Zerg right now is sitting there going, "Ayya," because he's going to be terrified of what's coming across the map. Zealot legs being researched. Rotti will also tell me off for calling it Zealot legs. Cannons being added here for Goblin. He's adding on his 4th as well, which is an expensive thing to do because you need to have static defense. But Goblin's army is just incredible. Absolutely massive. You can see 124 army supply as the Croatian starts to get closer and closer towards being max, adding more sentries, more stalkers that do have blink. Purification Nova, huge hit on the retreating army here. Blink forward as well. Banelings connecting with stalkers. That's not what you want. These force fields for Goblin are just prime, just beautiful. And Creighton, what can Garitos do?
I think he's only got 2 letters he can type at this point. He is trying, God bless him. He is fighting out to the very end, finding openings in those force fields, finding weaknesses. Really nice corrosive bios, by the way, picking down force fields that are like 2 apart from each other so they can stream banelings in between the gateways there and the gateway